Today, we're diving into a really fascinating medical mystery. It's a situation where a simple pocket of air in the chest can cause the body's entire circulatory system to just fail. We're going to solve the tension pneumothorax puzzle together. So just imagine this for a second. Air is trapped inside someone's chest, and with every single breath, the pressure just builds and builds and builds. The person is struggling for air, their blood pressure is tanking. I mean, it seems obvious, right? It's got to be a breathing problem causing the shock. But what if the most obvious answer is completely wrong? All right, like any good detective story, we have to start by looking at the usual suspects. Let's really dig into the common, logical-sounding reasons for why this kind of collapse would happen. So suspect number one is respiratory failure. And, this makes perfect sense on the surface. You've got air compressing along, the patient can't breathe. It seems totally logical that a lack of oxygen would be the thing that leads to shock. But here's our first big twist. While patients are, without a doubt, having a very hard time breathing, that's actually not the main reason their circulatory system is shutting down. It's a huge symptom for sure, but it isn't the root cause of the shock. So suspect number one is off the list. We got to keep looking. Okay, so if it's not a breathing problem, what about a bleeding problem? I mean, a big injury to the chest could easily cause an air leak and some major internal bleeding. Is it possible the person is just bleeding out inside their chest? And nope. The evidence points us somewhere else entirely. The data shows that most of these cases don't actually involve any kind of massive bleeding. So we've now ruled out the two most obvious answers. The plot definitely thickens. What on earth is really going on here? And this is the point in our investigation where everything takes a really sharp turn. Because the real culprit, it has almost nothing to do with the lungs or with blood loss. It's actually a fundamental plumbing problem. And there it is. That's the crucial clue that just reframes this whole puzzle. For a second, just forget about breathing. We need to be thinking about this as a refill problem. That one little idea, it changes everything. So here's the key takeaway. The real crisis isn't about the lungs being unable to do their job. It's about the heart being unable to get blood delivered to it in the first place. The pump itself is working just fine, but the fuel line is totally kinked. And that brings us to a really important medical concept. And that concept is called preload. Basically, it's how much the heart's chambers stretch out as they fill up with blood right before they squeeze. You can think of it like pulling back a rubber band. The more you stretch that rubber band, the more preload it has, the harder it's gonna snap back. Preload is all about the filling part of the equation. So how can a little bit of trapped air in the chest cause such a major refill problem? Well, let's walk through the exact chain of events step by step. Okay, here's the domino effect. First, that air pressure starts to build up in the chest. Then that pressure literally squeezes down on the vena cava. Those are the huge veins responsible for bringing blood back to the heart. With those veins compressed, the blood flow back to the heart just plummets. And finally, the heart simply can't refill. Its preload drops to almost nothing. It becomes this powerful pump with absolutely nothing to pump. That is what's causing the shock. Now, just to make sure this concept is totally locked in, let's look at what this problem is not. And it's not an issue with preload's opposite, which is called afterload. So afterload is pretty much the other side of the coin. If preload is all about filling the pump, afterload is all about the resistance that pump has to push against to get the blood out. A perfect example of high afterload is just regular old high blood pressure. The heart has to work way harder to eject blood into the system. And this chart just breaks it down perfectly. Preload is the refill, afterload is the push. In our tension pneumothorax situation, that external pressure on the veins is decreasing the preload. It's the complete opposite of something like hypertension, which increases afterload. Our problem is 100% in that refill column. So, the final verdict is in. The mystery is officially solved. A tension pneumothorax doesn't cause shock by suffocating the patient, and it doesn't cause it by making the heart push against some huge resistance. No, it causes shock by literally starving the heart of incoming blood. It stops the heart from filling, and a pump that can't fill is basically useless. So, we've just seen how the most dramatic and obvious symptom, the difficulty breathing, was actually a total red herring for what was really causing the shock. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In medicine, and maybe in other areas of life too. What other critical refill problems might we be overlooking just because we're distracted by a more obvious pumping problem? Something to think about.